20-year anniversary. It'll be actually in September. And the second proclamation would be for the Luzerne County Construction Trades Council, which recognizes 125 years of Labor Council. We also have a proclamation in regards to Brian Lyons. And we have two possibilities here in that regard. Thank you. We have a request from Mr. Duschler, who is a member of the courts. Brian is the young man that they're going to recognize on the 12th of July, which is this Friday. He has requested that we name it as Brian Lyons Day in Luzerne County. And in the past, we have not done that. We have done it as a tribute to, in this case, Brian Lyons. What would be the wishes of the council? How would you like the proclamation to read? Anybody have a suggestion or recommendation?
I move that we make it Brian Lyons Day.
I agree.
Okay. Ms. Haug and Mr. Bowe. On the question? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions, any opposition, none heard. So we'll make the proclamation read in Brian Lyons Day in Luzerne County. Is that correct with everybody?
Yes.
I'll take a moment to read through that, please. Whereas the community rich in volunteers dedicates their time and service in making significant positive changes, great or small, through individual or group actions. Whereas volunteering one's time, talent, resources has a significant part of our American heritage. And it's critical that we continue such a tradition of giving and sharing to preserve and improve the quality of life for all the citizens of our community. Whereas volunteers are motivated by simple satisfaction of helping their fellow citizens and making their community a better place to live. And doing so, they will set an outstanding example for others to follow. And by recognizing those who serve, we can replace disconnection with understanding and compassion. Whereas we celebrate the spirit and generosity that drive our citizens to care for others and serve a cause greater than self. Whereas Plymouth resident Brian Lyons, at the young age of 10 years, through his exemplary service and voluntary effort towards Plymouth's Elm Hill Hose Company No. 3, resulting in being recently named the Junior Fire Chief, an honor for which young Brian is and should be proudest. Now therefore, we, the Luzerne County Council, do hereby honor Brian Lyons for his commitment to making our community stronger through his steadfast dedication, excitement, and belief in the personal reward and the simple act of volunteerism, and do hereby proclaim July 12th, 2019 as Brian Lyons Day in Luzerne County, and urge residents of all ages to engage in activities that promote the act of volunteerism. So we'll pass that along to Brian on the 12th, which will be this Friday. Getting down to the voting session agenda, do we have any additions or deletions? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Mr. Snee and Ms. Saban. On the question, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any in opposition? Any abstentions? None heard. Motion carries. Now we're down to public comment. We have two gentlemen that have indicated they would like to speak this evening. Mr. Griffith?
Non-agenda item?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Nothing on the agenda.
That's fine. And Mr. McCabe?
Non-agenda.
Okay, anyone who would like to speak in regards to an agenda item? Seeing none, we'll move on. Motion to approve the minutes of the June 25th meeting. Ms. Saban, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Vogt? On the question? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? Any
No,
abstent?
the agenda minutes are not verbatim, so I'm not voting for it.
Mr. Urban, in opposition?
I abstain.
And Ms. Wakes abstains. Anyone else? Thank you. Motion carries. Moving over to the second page, we have a motion to introduce the ordinance entering into an intergovernmental agreement with Butler Township for the repair and dedication of roads in accordance with the Pennsylvania Intergovernmental Cooperation Law, Act 177, 1966, previously adopted as Act 180 of 1972. We have a motion? Mr. Keller. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Urban? On the question? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Oh, excuse me, it's the ordinance, so we need the roll call, please.
Mr. Bilbo?
Yes.
Ms. Hauk?
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Sedman?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Vogt?
Yes.
Ms. Wakus?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you. Moving down to agenda items on the county council. Motion to adopt a resolution declaring a vacancy in the Luzerne County Housing Authority. We have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Urban?
We skipping number 2?
I have the old one. Sorry.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Sorry, it's my fault.
Oh,
Excuse me. Number 2, we had this is a late addition, but I think everything went out to the council yesterday. The CAP voting delegate designations. We received a notification from CCAP indicating that we have to have 5 designated people for voting, and we will do that in the way that we normally would do nominations for positions on authority boards and commissions. So we have a motion to open up nominations.
So moved.
Ms. Wakus, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Snee, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition, any abstentions, none heard, motion carries. We're now open for nominations.
I nominate Sheila Sadman.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Saban, Ms. Wakus, and Mr. Vole. Other nominations?
I nominate Chris Perry. Second.
Mr. Snee and Mr. Kelleher. Other nominations?
Nominate Matt Vogt.
Mr. Perry nominates, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Bilbo?
I nominate Mr. McGinley.
Okay.
It's a little early.
Second.
Wakus and Mr. Snee. We need at least one more.
I nominate Ms. Howe. Mrs. Howe.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Keller and Mr. Urban, right? Any others?
I'll nominate Mr. Bilbo.
Do we have a second? Ms. Saban? Any others? Do we have a motion to close nominations? Mr. Kelleher, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Saban, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? Any abstentions? None heard. So we have 6 nominees, Ms. Saban, Mr. Perry, Mr. Vogt, Mr. McGinley, Ms. Hauk, and Mr. Bilbo. We'll do a roll call. You'll indicate which of the 5 candidates you support. Okay?
Could you repeat the names?
Yes, Ms. Saban, Mr. Perry, Mr. Vogt, Ms. McGinley, Ms. Hauk, and Mr. Bilbo. Okay? Everybody clear? Roll call, please.
Ms. Hauk?
Ms. Saban, Mr. Perry, Mr. Vogt, Mr. McGinley, Mrs. Hauk.
Mr. Kelleher?
Same 5.
Mr. Perry?
Same 5.
Ms. Sedman?
I will go for the same 5.
Mr. Schnee?
Mr. Perry, Mr. Bilbo, Mr. McGinley, Ms. Wakus, Ms. Sedman.
Miss Wakus isn't,
I'm not, no.
Miss Wakus isn't a candidate.
Oh, sorry.
So, I'm sorry. can
Mr.
you-
Vogt.
So you have Mr.
I
Vogt,
apologize.
Mr. Vogt,
Mr. Perry,
Mr. Perry,
Mr. McGinley, Mr.
Yeah,
Bilbo,
Bilbo.
and the fifth,
Ms. Sedman.
said, okay,
Mr. Urban,
Mrs. Hauk. That's it.
Mr. Vogt,
I'm gonna vote for the 5, not including myself.
Miss Wakus,
Ms. Sedman, Mr. Perry, Mr. Vogt, Mr. McGinley, and Mr. Bilbo.
Mr. Bilbo,
Saidman, Perry, Vogue, McGinley, and Bilbo. I really like the last guy.
Mr. McGinley,
Ms. Saban, Mr. Perry, Mr. Vogt, myself, and Mr. Bilbo.
What's that?
well, I came up with 9 for Saidman, 9 for Perry, 8 for Vogue, 9 for McGinley, 6 for Hauk, and 5 for Bilbo.
Yeah, that's what I have. That's what I have too. Okay. So we'll start at the top, and we need a resolution from Ms. Saban.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Wakus and Mr. Urban. Roll call for that. Ms. Saban.
Yes.
We need a roll call for that,
Mr. Kelleher? Oh, I thought.
Yes.
for the, so, just for the resolution point.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Sedman?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Vogt?
Yes.
Ms. Wakus?
Yes.
Mr. Bilbo?
Yes.
Ms. Hauk?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes. Now, the resolution for Mr. Perry.
So
Have a
moved.
Motion. Mr. Vogt,
Second.
Mr. Snee. Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Sedman?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Vogt?
Yes.
Ms. Wakus?
Yes.
Mr. Bilbo?
Yes.
Ms. Hauk?
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Unanimous.
We need a resolution for Mr. Vogt.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Okay, Ms. Wakus and Mr. Snee. Roll call.
Ms. Sedman?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Vogt?
Yes.
Ms. Wakus?
Yes.
Mr. Bilbo?
Yes.
Ms. Hauk?
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Need a resolution for Ms. McGinley. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Vogt and Mr. Snee. Roll call.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Ms. Sedman?
Yes.
Or, excuse- Mr. Urban?
No.
Mr. Vogt?
Yes.
Ms. Wakus?
Yes.
Mr. Bilbo?
Yes.
Ms. Hauk?
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes. Okay.
Do one
now-
again?
Yep. We need one more for Ms. Hauk.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, who was first with so moved?
Doesn't matter.
Mr. Vogt? Who was the second?
Mr. Urban?
Mr. Urban? Roll call?
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Vogt?
Yes.
Ms. Wakus?
Yes.
Mr. Bilbo?
Yes.
Ms. Hauk?
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Sedman?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay. Thank you. Moving down to number 2, we need a motion to declare a vacancy by resolution of Luzerne County Housing Authority.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kelleher and Ms. Saban on the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Vogt?
Yes.
Ms. Wakus?
Yes.
Mr. Bilbo?
Yes.
Ms. Hauk?
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Sedman?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you. Moving down to the next one, we need a motion to adopt a resolution declaring vacancy on Luzerne County Convention Center Authority.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kelleher. Who was second, Mr. Urban? Roll call, please.
Ms. Wakus?
Yes.
Mr. Bilbo?
Yes.
Ms. Hauk?
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Sedman?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Vogt?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Moving down to the next item is the eligibility list. This is the new eligibility list with the additions from the last interview session that was conducted about a week ago. Yep, the date's at the top there. Correct? Any questions in that regard?
Just want to make a comment.
Okay.
I was in Lancaster and I was coming up for the meeting, and it took me, I left in plenty of time, it took me 4 hours and 15 minutes, so I'm very appreciative. I didn't get to here on time for the meeting. And Attorney Saban and Bob Schnee ran the meeting, and according to what I was told, it was a great meeting. So I thank both of them.
Anyone else? Okay, moving down to nominations and appointments. The Housing Authority, we currently now have 2 openings with the vacancy due to Mr. Adams' passing. We do have 1 candidate on the eligibility list. Do we have a motion to open nominations?
So moved.
Mr. Snee,
Second.
second was
Me.
Mr. Vogt. All in favor, open nominations indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposition, any abstentions, none heard, motion carries. Nominations are now open.
Present the name of Rose Yarmel.
Okay.
Second.
And that's Mr. Snee and Mr. Urban.
Motion to close nominations?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Vogt to close nominations, second by Mr. Keller. All in favor of closing nominations indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, any abstentions, none heard. Since we have 1 candidate, we have 2 openings. We'll have a resolution to appoint Ms. Rose Yarmel to the Housing Authority. We need a roll call, please.
Mr. Bilbo?
Yes.
Ms. Hauk?
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Sedman?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Vogt?
Yes.
Ms. Wakus?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you. Moving down to the next item, boards and commissions. We have a motion to open up nominations.
So moved.
Ms. Wakus and Mr. Snee, second.
Yes.
All in favor of opening nominations indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any in opposition, any abstentions, none heard, motion carries. Moving down, we have the Board of Elections and Registration. Do we have a motion?
Can I make a comment first?
Absolutely.
We had a gentleman resign, and I thought, rather than going through the same thing again, I called 2 people. And the one person I called first was, I was gonna call the women first, I called Diane Dreyer. She's volunteered for an organization that's gonna take up her time. So she said, at this time, I would like to respectfully pass at this point. I don't want my name removed, just I want to pass. So I called the next woman, and her name is Audrey Zerniak, and I can tell you right now, if she walked in the room, I wouldn't know who she is, so I'm not playing any politics with this. And she said she would be glad to serve. She just wanted to confirm that she's appointed as an alternate to the Plains Zoning Board. She wanted to make sure that was not a conflict, As far as I've determined, that is no conflict. So I just want you to know, that doesn't mean you have to vote for her, but I do know that she will serve. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Nominations are now open.
I'd like to nominate Audrey Zerniak.
Okay.
Second.
Mr. Keller and Mr. Sneed. We have other nominations.
I nominate John Chornetsky.
Chernetsky. Mr. Urban. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Howe? Any other nominations? We have 3 names with Ms. Dwyer holding on right now. Any other nominations? We have a motion to close nominations.
So moved.
Mr. Keller, do we have a second? Ms. Saban, all in favor? Close the nominations indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition, any abstentions, none heard, nominations are closed. We'll have a roll call indicate which of the candidates you're going to support, Ms. Zerniak or Mr. Chernetsky. Roll call, please.
Ms. Hauk,
Troneski.
Mr. Kelleher,
Zerniak?
Mr. Perry,
Cerniak.
Ms. Sedman,
Cerniak.
Mr. Schnee,
Cerniak.
Mr. Urban,
Mr. Chornetsky.
Mr. Vogt,
Mr. Charneski?
Ms. Wakes,
Cerniak.
Mr. Bilbo,
Cerniak?
Mr. McGinley.
Zerniak. 3.
Correct.
Ms. Zerniak as the nomination, 7-3. We have nominated the resolution to appoint Ms. Zerniak to the Board of Elections and Registration. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Keller, do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Wakes? Roll call, please.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Ms. Sedman,
Yes.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Vogt,
Yes.
Ms. Wakes,
Yes.
Mr. Bilbo,
Yes.
Ms. Hauk,
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Moving down to Luzerne County Farmland Preservation Board, we have a motion to open up nominations.
So moved.
Mr. Sneed, we have a second.
Second.
Ms. Saban. All in favor of open nominations indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition, any abstentions, none heard, motion carries. We have one person who is eligible on the eligibility list, Mr. Ballot. Do we have a motion by resolution to appoint Mr. Ballot to the Farmland Preservation Board?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Urban,
Yeah.
second. Ms. Saban. Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Ms. Sedman,
Yes.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Vogt,
Yes.
Ms. Wakes,
Yes.
Mr. Bilbo,
Yes.
Ms. Hauk,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Very good. Moving down to Luzerne County 4-4 Airport Advisory Board. As you can see by the eligibility list, we have 7 openings. We have 3 people who have applied and are on the eligibility list. We have a motion to open nominations.
So moved.
Mr. Keller, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Perry, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition, any abstentions, none heard. Nominations are open.
Can
I
make a
sent the name
comment
of
first?
John Baum.
Can I make a comment first
Sure.
before we go through the nominations?
Absolutely.
The guy who was referred to me and talked to me and did a lot of work to get these 3 people here is Tom Bliskevich. And I talked to Mr. McGinley and Mrs. Hauk about this. Unfortunately, he works for McCarthy Tire. And McCarthy Tire has a contract with the county, and therefore he's ineligible to serve because that's considered a conflict. Even though McCarthy Tire does no business with the 44th Airport. And Mr. Bliskevich would earn no money as a result of this. That's a flaw to me in our charter. And that was put on the ballot, and I mentioned this in the previous meeting. This was put on the ballot and voted down by the people of the county. I think because it was worded so poorly, the people were confused. and I hope that it's put on the ballot again and it's worded in a much simpler way, so that somebody like that could stand up and say, I work for McCarthy Tire, they have a contract with the county, and I get no benefit from this. There's no money given to the people who are on the advisory board. He would be a worthy member, and he loves this airport. He thinks it's an asset to the county. So there's nothing we can do with it right now, but I just want you to know about that, and I appreciate all of his work so that he got his 3 members.
Thank you. Yes, sorry.
Was there also another conflict with him regarding being mayor? Wasn't he also
That's-
mayor
Yeah,
of
he is
Swartzville? He's
mayor of
mayor-
West Pittston.
Oh, West Pittston, yeah.
That's right, but I don't believe that.
That's not a conflict.
That was not a conflict,
No.
okay.
And I would concur with
Yes,
Mr. Kelleher's
They
comments
were all
on
great.
that gentleman.
And you interviewed him, didn't you?
Yeah.
yes,
And-
they were great, all of them.
Outstanding. The one man here, Mr. Baum, I mean, that's Mr. resume is unbelievable.
Yep,
Is he the Blue Angel?
Yeah,
yep.
On the nominations, Mr. McGinley, I'd like to nominate all 3 of them.
Second.
Well, Mr. Sneed nominated Mr. Baum before we got
Okay.
that. So
I'll
you
second
want to
Mr.
nominate all
Baum.
3, Mr. Sneed?
Yes.
And Ms. Houck, you want to second that?
Sure.
Thank
Okay.
you.
We'll have 3 separate resolutions to appoint them to the boards, okay? First one would be Mr.
Close the
Baum.
nominations. Move
Yep,
to close
close the
nominations.
nominations. Ms. Houck, Mr. Keller, all in favor?
aye.
Any abstentions or opposition? None heard, motion carries. Roll call for Mr. Baum.
We need a first and a second for the resolution?
We did.
Now you
Mr.
need a
Sneed
motion for
made
the
the first and,
No, for the resolution.
Resolution to,
Okay.
I make a motion to approve a resolution appointing Baum.
okay, Ms. Houck?
Second.
Second, Mr. Sneed. Roll call.
Ms. Edmond?
Yes,
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Vogt?
Yes.
Ms. Wakers?
Yes.
Mr. Bilbo?
Yes.
Ms. Houck?
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Very good. We need a resolution for Mr. Gittos. Who's going to make that?
I would like to make that.
Mr. Bilbo? Is there a
Second.
Mr. Snee? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Vogt?
Yes.
Ms. Wakers?
Yes.
Mr. Bilbo?
Yes.
Ms. Houck?
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick?
yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you. And now, Mr. Pervola, we need a motion. Ms. Saidman?
Second.
Mr. Vogt?
Yep.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Vogt?
Yes.
Ms. Wakers?
Yes.
Mr. Bilbo?
Yes.
Ms. Houck?
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Sedman?
Yes,
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you. Moving down to Luzerne County Planning Commission. We need a motion to open up nominations. Mr. Kelleher,
second,
Ms. Saban, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition, any abstentions, none heard, motion carries. We have 1 person on the eligibility list, and we have 1 opening. So we need a motion to appoint Mr. Nasik by resolution to the Planning Commission.
Second.
Mr. Kelleher, and second, who was that?
Mr. Urban.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Roll call, please. No, excuse me, close nominations, I guess, right?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Snee, Mr. Urban, all in favor, close nominations indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any in opposition, any abstentions, none heard. We have a motion by Mr. Kelleher and second by Mr. Urban to appoint Mr. Nasik to the Planning Commission. Roll call.
Mr. Vogt?
Yes.
Ms. Wakers?
Yes.
Mr. Bilbo?
Yes.
Ms. Houck?
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Sedman?
yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Very good. Now we have down to the Luzerne County Zoning Hearing Board. Need a motion to open up nominations.
So moved.
Mr. Snee, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Urban, all in favor of nomination, open nominations indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any in opposition, any abstentions, none heard, motion carries. We only have one name, Mr. Schuster,
I nominate Mr. Schuster.
Second.
Ms. Hauk, and Mr.
Move to close
Kelleher.
nominations.
Second.
Ms. Hauk. Close nominations, and Mr. Vogel was second, correct?
Yep.
All in favor of closing nominations indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition, any abstentions, none heard. We have a nomination of Mr. Schuster for the Luzerne County Zoning Hearing Board. We have a motion for a resolution.
So moved.
Ms. Hauk, a second.
Second.
Mr. Kelleher. Roll call, please.
Ms. Wakus,
Yes.
Mr. Bilbao,
Yes.
Ms. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Ms. Sedman,
Yes.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Vogt,
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes.
Unanimous.
We have a motion to open up nominations for the Workforce Investment Board.
So moved.
Mr. Urban, do we have a second? Mr. Snee, all in favor of opening nominations indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition, any abstentions, none heard, motion carries. We have
I
five,
I nominate all 5.
okay. we
Second.
nominate- Ms. Hauk, nominates all five, who was second?
7.
Ms. Saban?
Move to close nominations.
Second.
Do we have a second for that?
Second.
Mr. Keller? All in favor of closing nominations indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition, any abstentions, none heard. One at a time, we'll take them from the top. Resolution to appoint Ms. Jane Ashton to the Luzerne Schuylkill Workforce Investment Board.
So moved.
Motion, Ms. Hauk,
Second.
Mr. Vogel. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bilbao,
Yes.
Ms. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher.
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Ms. Sedman.
Yes.
Mr. Schnee.
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Vogt.
Yes.
Ms. Wakus.
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes.
Unanimous.
You need a motion for a resolution to appoint Mr. Gregory Coons,
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Hauk, and Mr. Vogel. Roll call, please.
Ms. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Ms. Sedman,
Yes.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Vogt,
Yes.
Ms. Wakus.
Yes.
Mr. Bilbao,
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes.
Unanimous.
We need a motion for appoint Ms. Mary Malone by
So moved.
resolution. Ms. Snee, we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Perry? Roll call, please.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Ms. Sedman,
Yes.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Vogt,
Yes.
Ms. Wakus.
Yes.
Mr. Bilbao,
Yes.
Ms. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Need a motion to appoint by resolution Ms. Heather Nelson to the Workforce Investment Board.
Present.
Second.
Mr. Snee and Mr. Vogt. Roll call.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Ms. Sedman,
Yes.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Vogt,
Yes.
Ms. Wakus.
Yes.
Mr. Bilbao,
Yes.
Ms. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes.
Unanimous.
And the final one by resolution be Michael Saporito to the Workforce Investment Board.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Bilbo and Mr. Snee. Roll call.
Ms. Sedman,
Yes.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Vogt,
Yes.
Ms. Wakus.
Yes.
Mr. Bilbao,
Yes.
Ms. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you. And now we're down to public comment. Mr. Griffith?
Good evening. I was here, I think, 2 weeks ago and talked about a no-bid contract, no-bid list for people in the county that are not reputable or have issues with contracts that were already submitted. And I'm here again this evening to state that I think ES&S needs to be pulled off of that contract, or the negotiations, I should say. They don't have a contract yet. They're in negotiations for their election voting machines, based on the irregularities that were created. Also, Northeast Revenue, I don't think should be considered at all. I think if nothing else, they should be removed as a bidder in the county. it seems pretty peculiar that we had several other counties involved in the scandal that we just recently saw in Scranton, and Northeast Revenue was named in a couple of those other counties as well. So I think we need to move away from Northeast Revenue if possible. I was happy to see that the RFPs or proposals that we got, we have other proposals that we might be able to pick from, but I would strongly urge council to move away from that bid process. Also, professional services. I know that the law says that we don't have to bid professional services, but I think we should bid professional services. I think the county does a fairly good job on doing that for the most part. But just because it doesn't require us to, I think somewhere along the line, maybe either through the administrative code or something, should be language put in there that says all professional services should be bid, or RFP'd, or RFQ'd, whichever way you want to do it, just so we get the best value for our services here. I know it's easy to say that we don't have to, so it's not something that we shouldn't do. I think it's best for the county. I'm a little bit disappointed in the governor's veto of the $9 million for voting machines. I find it very disturbing that the very person who said we have to have electronic voting machines that are not tamperable and puts an unfunded mandate on this county has now turned around and vetoed the very bill that's going to provide the funding for this county. I think it's really strange and really sad that the governor of this state won't give us any money to fund those machines, just because he thinks that the straight ballot, or whatever his issue is on other parts, that he doesn't think that that's a good thing to put in the bill for the straight party. He said the straight party takes longer. I think what takes longer is if you're putting your vote in the electronic machine and then you get a piece of paper and you have to feed it into another machine. I think that takes longer. The ability to push a straight lever does not take longer. It takes less time, and his argument is that we don't want to make it longer for the voter. I think we've already made it longer for the voter. We've given them another step to do. If we want to save time, let's go with a paper ballot and be done with it. Don't do the electronic machine. Our machines can't be hacked or not connected to the internet. I don't understand why we have to spend this money. This council should send a clear message to the governor and say, if you're not going to give us the money for the machines, we're not buying them. The taxpayers should not be responsible for that. Thank you.
Mr. McCabe?
Yeah, Joe McCabe from Exeter. I have deep concern over the governor. I met him 2 years ago in Pittston at the Tomato Fest, and I told him, I said, about the school teachers. Back in 1987, I worked for RCA Corporation for 30 years. We start paying co-pays and everything else. The teachers, up until today, don't pay a penny for their benefits and all. I think the governor, when he was running for election this time, he wanted a tax on the gas companies. What happened to that? There was 70-some Democrats voted against the budget. He voted for the budget. He left all his own people. You know, it's a shame to have a guy like this representing us, you know. Mr. Chairman, I give you a lot of credit to stand in the paper and about the voting machines, you know. You're not the only one that's against it, you know, because we're getting hammered with everything. Dave, I'd like to ask you a question. I know it's sour grapes the last couple of meetings about the lobbyist group that you hired, right? Now, when they make a proposal, are they going to come back to council and get the okay to do it, or are they going to have the okay to do it?
Mr. McCabe, why don't you finish your comments, and then we'll ask Mr. Petty to respond.
And I think that's about it. Yeah, he can answer that one.
Okay, thank you.
I've been in contact with the lobbyist firm, Maverick Solutions, you know, most recently over the voting machines that were, the funding was pulled from them. Governor Wolf came out with a statement earlier this afternoon stating that he would borrow, the Pennsylvania would borrow $90 million in order to fund these county voting machines. That came out early this afternoon. I'm very pleased that moved forward with it. I would say that Maverick Solutions throughout this process has been a key member informing everybody regarding this. Maverick Solution has been in contact with the legislative committee, particularly Councilman Haas, and has bringing those attentions down to our legislators moving forward. I would say that the major concern of the county manager and was reported to the county, from the county council, from the legislative committee, is the 911 funding. If there's any sort of 911 funding for our upcoming project for the 2020 year.
Anyone in the public who would like to address council at this time? Ms. Carpenter?
It's my pleasure this evening to introduce our new full-time assistant solicitor, Morgan Palermo. Morgan, you want to stand up? Morgan has the unenviable task of following me around for a few months. She is a 2013 graduate of Wilkes University and graduated from the Dickinson School of Law in 2016. She's clerked for a judge in Berks County and worked for 2 years with legal aid in southeastern PA until we lured her back home. She hails from Drums, Pennsylvania, and she has indicated to me that she is looking forward to returning here to Luzerne County and working with all of you to continue to improve our county. Welcome home, Morgan.
Thank you. Welcome and good luck. We certainly need all the help we can get, so we appreciate it. Anyone else?
Yeah, I got a comment too.
Mr. Urban?
Yeah, I just want to respond to Mr. Griffith's comment. I concur with Walter in part on his comment about Northeast Revenue. What I like to know, if Northeast Revenue contract comes before us, I would like an answer from Northeast Revenue. When they were asked to pay a bribe in exchange for a contract, did they report it immediately to federal authorities? That's the only question I want to answer.
Ms. Saban?
Yes, I wanted to make a comment about Mr. Griffith's statements too, which also has, everything I read, Mr. Urban and Mr. Griffith, is that Northeast Revenue cooperated fully with the FBI and any of the investigative groups. I don't think that any statement came out that they paid any bribes. Now, I don't know how immediately they contacted the federal agencies, or law enforcement of any kind, but there wasn't any article I read that indicated that they were in fact participating in the bribe. Or someone else can tell me I missed an article. You did? I missed an article? Huh?
It's listed in the papers, $4,000 paid to.
Okay, excuse me. Anyone else?
Yes, if there's nobody else, this could be my last meeting, depending on what happens next week. I believe deals are consummated when the paper is signed and the money's exchanged, so I'll find out next week if my house is sold. If it is, I'm no longer a resident of the county. I've worked with the retirement board, Rick Hummer, and Chris will agree, Rick Hummer, Donnie Karpovich, Greg Stump is the actuary, and Rick Kazori, who's our investment person. They do an excellent job, especially Rick Hummer. I want to give him a lot of credit because very organized, knows his job, comes to the meetings prepared, and always, he doesn't have an answer, he gets it to you. I've had a wonderful opportunity to meet many nice people. Matt, you've been on the Conservation Board, you know Josh Longmore?
Yep.
What a quality guy, quality, all the way. ABCs, I've worked with Sheila and Bob Schnee, and fantastic job, I've enjoyed it. I want to mention two people that are kind of unsung heroes. Wayne Mitchell, sitting out here. I know there are times he doesn't watch a clock and he works 10, 12 hours. Sam Hyder, I know there are weeks that he's been at the prison 3 and 4 days without going home. So, honored to meet these people. The person I've known the longest on this council is Linda Howe. We go back 50 years about, kid. That dates me, but it dates you too. She was a very cute, intelligent, talented, smart 9th grader when I first met her. And I was shocked that she went into music, and I told her that. I thought she'd be a lawyer, a scientist, a doctor, or something like that, because she was so smart. And I have nothing against music. I have a minor in music, and I was a choir director for 39 years. It's a wonderful council. I think at this time we should mention appreciation to Mr. Urban, 30-some years of service, and last week was July 4th, and Mr. Perry. You spent time in the service, about 20 years, right? So, thank them and thank the members of council. I think there's 2 words that have been corrupted. The words cooperation and compromise. Seems like the word compromise is almost a dirty word anymore. And I think this council gets along. We don't always vote the same way, but we've handled things in a congenial manner and never personalities entered in. And Mr. McGinley, you're doing an excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's sort of a hard act to follow, this statement, but, you know, as we go forward, obviously, we'll certainly miss Mr. Kelleher. He's been a strong member of our group, very volunteers for anything to help out, and has been very positive in his approach, and it's something that we'll certainly miss. And well, we wish you good luck and good health as you move forward. I know your family is probably very happy with your decision, and hopefully that'll be great for everyone involved there.
Yeah, they're happy that I'm going to work.
Work doesn't hurt anybody.
No, it doesn't. They need to stop and drop.
Do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Mr. Keller, do we have a second? Second, Mr. Urban? All in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Thank you. We'll move right into the work session. Excuse me? Yeah, I know. We'll call the work session to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bilbo?
Present.
Mr. Hawes? Ms. Hauk?
Present.
Mr. Kelleher?
Here.
Mr. Perry?
Here.
Ms. Sedman? Here. Mr. Schnee?
Present.
Mr. Urban?
Here.
Mr. Vogt?
Here.
Ms. Wakes?
Present.
Mr. McGinley?
Present. Any additions or deletions? Motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Ms. Wakes, second. Mr. Schnee, all in favor? Indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition, abstentions? Unheard. Since the gentlemen and ladies from Geisinger are here, we'll ask them to come up first so that they can have a little more of their evening to themselves instead of staying here with us. This is number 3 on the agenda, but since they are here and present, we'll begin with your presentation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is David Cutright. I'm Director of Treasury Operations for Geisinger, and I would like for some of my colleagues who are here tonight to answer any questions that I can't, if they would stand and introduce themselves so you know who they are. So, Ron, you want to start?
I am Ron Beer. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for the Northeast region of Geisinger.
Laura Endler with Geisinger Legal Services, based here in the Northeast.
Steve Hill, State Facility Planner for Planning and Construction in the Northeast.
Matt Zay, the Relations Specialist for the Northeast region. And Dan Landsberg, Administrative Director for Geisinger Wyoming Valley, Geisinger South Wilkes-Barre.
First, we'd like to thank the council for allowing us to come to talk about the Series 2009 bond issue that we'd like to do this year. I'm sure you're already aware that any organization, including Geisinger, must seek approval from every county in which they plan to expend any type of tax-exempt bond proceeds. And that's a requirement under the Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act of 1982 and the Municipal Authorities Act of 1945. We request approval of a resolution, which will not be until your next meeting in, I think it's
2
July
weeks.
23rd. Yes,
Yeah,
so
2 weeks.
in 2 weeks for that. So, first of all, the issuing authority on this will be Geisinger Authority. It's an instrumentality of Montour County, and that's who will be issuing the bonds. The principal amount is not to exceed $1 billion, and that will consist of new debt and also to refinance some existing debt if market conditions so warrant to do that fact. The issuance date is going to be sometime probably in September or October. It all depends on how many approval, how often we can, or how quickly we can get the approvals from all the counties, work through all the other regulations that need to be done for that. The term of the bonds will be approximately 30 years, and the structure of the bonds, that's still under review, whether it'll be variable rate, fixed rate, that type of thing. We won't know that until we know what the interest rates are at the time of issuance on that part. Use of the funds will be used for new healthcare facilities and equipment, as I stated earlier, possibly to replace some existing debt. The obligor on this is Geisinger Health. Geisinger Health is liable for the payments of the bonds through a loan agreement with the Geisinger Authority, as I said, the issuing agency here on that. No, there is no county obligation here. The authority is obligated only to pay those monies it receives from Geisinger Health through to the bondholders. So neither the authority, Luzerne County, or any other county in which we seek approvals will be obligated for any type of payment. There are no taxing authorities with this particular bond issue. It is strictly a revenue bond. If I could take a couple moments just to talk about some of the statistics for the county here, the impact that Geisinger has here, and then I'll turn it over to Dan to talk about some more specifics from the operational side, if you'll bear with me for a moment. We have 4,521 Geisinger employees who work within Luzerne County. We have 4,827 county residents who work for Geisinger in total there. Some other stats, now these go back now to the calendar year 2018. We had 17,238 inpatient cases of Luzerne County residents at the hospitals here, the 5 hospitals that Geisinger has in Pennsylvania. Most of those statistics, though, are for Geisinger, Wyoming, and Valley. We had 159,700 and some unique county residents seen by Geisinger during calendar year 2018. An individual is only counted once. So if you receive care 4 or 5 times, we still only count in that number one with that. Some of the things that GWV has done here in the county has spent $463.6 million during that year. And that gives us what's called a total effect ripple of $808.9 million to the county. Direct salaries, we paid $118.2 million, but that giving a ripple effect of $183.8 million. And what they mean by a ripple effect is if when money is spent within an area, that also affects other folks, whether it's in the service industry, other industries, whatever, there's a ripple effect to that. So that's economic impact there. At this time, Dan, would you like to come up and talk about some of the direct operations here?
Members of the council, Mr. McGinley, Mr. Pedri, members of our community, thank you for the opportunity to stand here and fill you in today on some of what we're doing here at Geisinger. Dave had mentioned a number of stats as far as our impact on the region, but I'm pleased to report that with the the proposed issuance of these bonds, it'll enable us to continue to invest in our community and add services that expand access to care and address some of the key drivers of poor health outcomes in our area. A few of the key areas we're focusing on in the coming years, and really presently as well, is expansion of primary care. That's a big area for us, and I'm sure you've seen the new building that we just opened in Kingston and the other one that's under construction on Wyoming Avenue. That'll help to serve some of the seniors in our facility, in our community. We've made a number of investments at Geisinger South Wilkes-Barre, including spending $5 million on reopening our emergency department and adding new inpatient beds, and that's been really an unmitigated success from our standpoint. We're actually seeing over 60 patients a day now at that emergency department. So that overall has been a really nice win, and we've gotten great feedback from our community on that. We actually have 1.7 million square feet of both clinical and office space here in the county, and obviously have plans to continue to increase that. We've got 2 hospitals here, as you know, Geisinger Wyoming Valley, which is a level 2 trauma center that features advanced cancer care, heart care, obstetrical care, neonatology, all the types of services that we like to continue to offer to avoid our community members having to leave this area for care. And also having the convenience of a community hospital here right down the road has, again, been received very well. We have 6 primary care offices here in the county, as well as 5 specialty care offices and a slew of other services. And again, with the issuance of these bonds, our intent would be to continue to invest and to continue to hire. and to continue to be a driver of both health in our community and economic development.
Thank you.
So at this time, we'll entertain any questions, and now you see why we brought people like Dan. Financing, I could not answer those operational questions, so.
Thank you.
But if you have questions, we certainly
Absolutely.
will address those.
Questions for the gentleman? Ms. Hauk?
Yes?
Tougher hearing is going to be in Danville? Is
Yes.
that it? Okay,
Yes.
before the next meeting.
Before the next meeting, yes, July 22nd.
Anyone else? Mr. Urban?
This is probably not, maybe it's not relevant to the actual TEFRA hearing, but, you know, several presidential candidates are talking about making healthcare a government-run healthcare system. If that happens, how would you pay back the $1 billion in bonds?
If I had that answer, I would
Right,
run for
I just-
president. So
I
I don't mean to be flippant.
No,
It's a serious issue,
think
yes.
It's a serious issue, yeah,
Yes.
and it is with all healthcare providers. I mean, I like
To
the
be honest,
system.
I don't know.
Yeah, I like the system the way it is, and I've used you in the past and found you to be a good healthcare provider here in the area, so never had a bad word to say about Geisinger, so.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Anyone else with questions? Okay, thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
Well, thank you.
We appreciate your time. And thanks for your investment in Luzerne County. Moving to the top of the agenda, division reports. Manager Pedri.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Obviously, this is a division head summary that I've provided to County Council for June. Some things I want to highlight. We'll start with the cyber attack issue that we've been recently dealing with since just right before Memorial Day. We are still dealing with the cyber attack issue. The biggest issue that we have right now is the camera system in the assessor's office. I was on the phone with our consultants today. We feel very strongly that our school bills will be able to go out for August 1st. So that was the biggest concern that we have right now. There are some school districts that had to push their dates back. Some school districts got, already issuing in August, but we did have to inform them that we would not be able to certify those bills until August 1st. So it looks like we are on the timeline to get those bills out and about for the August 1st date. There are 32 separate departments in Luzerne County. There are numerous pieces of software that we utilize throughout the entire county. And all of it was down for a couple of days. But I want to say how absolutely proud I am and honored to work with so many amazing county employees. I was in the Recorder of Deeds office today. They had a backlog of a couple of weeks worth of filings they had to get done. They got it done within a couple of days. And they are now filing every day, up to date, just as if no issues ever occurred. Once again, county employees stepping up time and time again across the line. Just because the assessor's office doesn't have the camera system up and running does not mean they're not working. They're utilizing other softwares in order to do their job, in order to get the information out as well. But there are some issues still moving forward. We're learning from this incident as we move forward. We will have a full and complete report to council once the investigation is complete of the cyber attack issues. I just saw that Philadelphia County Courts is just getting back up and running from their cyber attack issue, and Baltimore City is also just getting back up and running from their cyber attack issue. So we are in the middle of continually fixing these things, but I do believe that we are coming around a corner for a lot of it. And the main issue that we have right now is the assessor's office. The one thing that I do want to bring to council's attention, and I want the members of the public to know this as well, is this Friday, July 12th, July 19th, and 26th, through the County Tourism Bureau, we are having 3 free concerts at our beautiful Riverfront Park. Rockin' the River this Friday from 5 to 9 p.m. At the Riverfront Park will be a great event. I called ahead, and it wasn't going to rain. So I did make some calls, and I think we're good. But we have our fingers crossed for this for this event, and we're hoping the community will come out. I want to thank LCTA, who will be providing free busing to this event. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for their hard work in being there. This Friday will be Joe Nardone's Rockology. The student band will come out to play, and they're really great to come out and watch them. And the headliner will be Yellow Brick Road, which is an Elton John tribute band. Come on, who doesn't like Elton John? Who doesn't like Sun? Who being out there? Who doesn't like the river? These are all beautiful things that we're trying to draw attention to that we have in this park. Why can't we have these events here? We can. So please get the word out to the community. It's on the county Facebook page. It's on the tourism Facebook page. It's on the county's website. It's on the tourism's website as well. It's on social media. We're getting word out to everywhere we possibly could. Please tell your friends and families to come out to this great event and draw attention to what we have. And I will turn over to Councilman Vogt, who also will be providing some information.
Yes, so I worked with Dave, and we're going to have prescription take-back boxes at each of these concerts. So bring your old prescription drugs, turn them in, and help us any way we can to take some more drugs off the streets.
Any questions for Manager Pedrick? Okay. Seeing none, move down to number 2 there, Manager.
Ladies and gentlemen, before you is a multimodal transportation fund grant from the Pennsylvania Commonwealth Financing Authority. We put in for these grants pretty regularly. Michelle Sparish from my office does a great job putting them together. We have been pretty successful in the last couple of years getting some money for Bicycles Road and some money for the Hanover Industrial Park. This grant will also go for the Hanover Industrial Park, which has recently seen the huge boom in jobs out there. This is where the Chewy.com is, the Patagonia, the Adidas. We're asking for a grant of $165,000 from PennDOT that will go to bus shelters and bus cutouts. Right now, the buses come in. They are coming in, and if you talk to Norm Gavlik, the evening buses, the people coming in working the third shift, are packed. So those buses should not have to hold up traffic. They should be able to pull over, and the people should be safe getting on and off the bus. And if it is raining, it would be nice to get out of the elements. This grant will go to fund those buses. So with your review and your approval, we can apply for this grant. Doesn't mean we're going to get it. I've been turned down for grants before, pretty often, but every now and then we do come up with a good one, and I feel like this will be a good one.
David, here in the resolution that's in our packets, it has a $ sign and 3 X's. What did you say it was?
It's going to be for $165,000. And it's going to go for busing, as well as we're also going to be doing a plan to see if we need a traffic light at that location as well.
One more thing on the resolution too. It says adopted at the meeting 23rd day of June, so we have to change that to July.
Can you catch that, Shannon?
Yep, we'll make that editorial change. Questions regarding the grant application? Okay, moving down to number 4, because we spoke with the Geisinger people already. Review approval of the Luzerne School Workforce Investment Board budget. Every year they send the budget information to us and ask for approval, and every year we submit the information to the council and it doesn't pass. But they've submitted it again, so it's back on our work session agenda. And any questions, we'll forward to the Workforce Investment Board, but it will be on our agenda 2 weeks hence. And see where we go from there with the budget request. Anything else? Anyone? Okay. Public comment? Mr. Griffith?
Good evening. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Kelleher for his service to this council and this county. 4 years is a fairly long time to serve on this council. This is a full-time job for most folks that don't realize how much is involved for part-time pay. So I appreciate the time and effort that he's put into this for the last 4 years, and I wish him well in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I know it's going to be a move for him and his family, and I wish him well for that. On my other notes, I have one of the notes I have is what's happened to the county webpage. I was out there looking for right-to-know requests for 2019. They're not there anymore. They were taken down. I don't know whether that's because we had the virus or what's happened there, but there are no more right-to-know requests for 2019 like they used to be. We used to have, in 2018, it's pretty helter-skelter. You can't follow or find anything. It's kind of out of whack. So if the manager could take a look at that, maybe have somebody from IT take a look and see what's happened to the 2019 requests. I'm sure there's been a plethora of requests from January until now, but there's nothing on the webpage. The contract page also is dysfunctional. When you try to look at contracts on the county manager's webpage, you get a huge box at the bottom. You only get to see a couple of boxes, and then when you do open it, you don't see the contracts. So it may be all related to the virus that the county just recently had to endure. So if the manager could take a look at that so we could get the information, that'd be wonderful. There's no more county emails from the county council. Did we stop doing that from county council members, not putting their emails online? I know that was something that they used to do on the council, but I guess we don't do that anymore. Don't know why that was done or stopped. And I have a note here from the Hazleton Transit Authority. Back when we were doing budget time, I remember Mr. Urban questioned the gentleman that was standing here about reimbursement from the outlying counties that were served by Hazleton Transit Authority. Did we ever get an answer as to whether we're going to get any money from those folks? I know he was supposed to go back, and then we approved the budget contingent on that information. I don't know if the council ever got an answer from the Hazleton Transit Authority regarding whether we're going to get any reimbursement from them and how much that reimbursement's going to be. And I know that was something that was approved by this council for the budget process, contingent on paying their share to PennDOT. So if I can get an answer as to whether we got any answer from the Hazleton Transit Authority, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to address the council at this time?
I haven't heard anything on the Hazleton Transit.
Anyone else?
They're not going to comment.
Go ahead.
I didn't know we were saying goodbye to Mr. Kelleher. I wasn't ready tonight, but I met Mr. Kelleher 4 years ago. Over this time period, the man's a class act. He's served this council with honesty and integrity, and I know every vote that he made during his 4 years, whether people agree with him or don't agree with him, came from his heart for the betterment of Luzerne County. I'd like to thank his family for sharing him with us. There's a lot of time that's spent doing this job, and finally it's an honor to call him my friend. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm celebrating my 44th wedding anniversary Friday, so will you talk to my wife? She said that she's been happy some of them, but not all of them. So I appreciate that, Bob. I do think that people should take more pride in this home rule charter, the home rule form of government. What was the debt, Mr. McGinley or Mr.
$465 million.
465 million, and now it's what?
I think the last count was like 270, 271.
270. So it's terrible to say we're in debt 270, but it's also, we should take pride in the fact that we've lowered the indebtedness of the taxpayers in this county. And I could go on with a list of a few things that I think we should take pride in, and that is credit rating restored. That was a biggie, so that when we borrow, we get lower rates. And the consolidation of the debt, where went by consolidating the debt, 12.2 million was saved over 3 years. And you can go on and on. There's been a lot of good things happening here in this government, and it's been open and above board. I again appreciate all the people on this council. Thank you. Thank you.
And if I could just thank Mr. Kelleher for his service on the real estate committee. Your service was invaluable, and thank you very much, because I know we put in a lot of hours. All of us did.
Thank
you. I'm very
Especially you.
All of us, thank you.
And I
Segment?
just want to say something that, as a newbie to this council, Mr. Kelleher has been a wonderful mentor, chairing the ABC committee, which Bob and I are fortunate to be on, and really seeing the quality of people that come through this door to be interviewed for non-paying positions with very little credit. And Mr. Kelleher always lets them know how much we appreciate their coming forward. And I think that we are losing one of our gems when you leave us. And he has a great voice, too.
Yes, Gene. I only got to know you in the last year and a half, and you're just an outstanding councilman, but also a much better person. Luzerne County is losing a great guy, a really great guy. I hate to have anybody leave, but we're losing one of the best. My pleasure, Gene.
Thanks, Gene. You're here 6 years, not 4. I remember the first 2 and the last 4, so thank you very much, and enjoy those extra 2 months of sunshine down there. You know, you get that that early spring, and you get that late fall down in Lancaster. It's always nicer once you get through that Lehigh Tunnel. I mean, as far as scenery and sunshine and fresh apples down in Washington, in Adams County down there. It's just a beautiful place, and I know you're leaving a nice county, but you're going to a nice area of the state. You're staying in the state, so thank you very much for all you did for the county, and wish you a happy and healthy life, Gene.
Thank you.
You're welcome. God bless you.
Anyone else? Mr. Bilbo, I'd like to have close the meeting on behalf of the young man.
Well, I just want to mention at the start of our meeting, I was thinking about it during our time of silence, that we today in the Pittston area school district suffered a great tragedy. I'm the principal, proud principal, I always say. I'm the proud principal in my day job of the Martin L. Matei Middle School. And one of our 5th grade students was tragically killed in a house fire this morning. So, you know, we've had that on our mind a lot, and you know, as we had our moment of silence tonight, I have that 5th grade student who I could see standing in front of me. I have him and his family in my heart and in my thoughts. So I just wanted to share that with council, and you know that's going on in our area. So thank you, Mr. McGinley.
Thank you. Motion adjourned.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Keller, Mr. Bell, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
It's,